What's up, guys, and welcome back. The Steelers have pulled out a win, the final score of 20-19 against the Baltimore Ravens at Heinz Field. That was probably one of, if not the best games of the season. And man, I'm just feeling great about this right now. I'm feeling great about myself. This win's making me feel good about myself, my sports teams. And no, the Steelers aren't a Super Bowl contender, but it's definitely making me feel good about this team and how they're never going to truly be a terrible football team. They're not going to be a bad football team. They'll just be decent at worst. So let's get in. Let's just jump right off at the start of the game. I'm just going to give a little recap of what happened. To start the game, the defense started the game off well, and they were hyped up. They started off like the way they were supposed to, the way they're hyped up to be. Lamar drove down the field. He was pressured by T.J. Watt, and in the red zone, he threw an interception right to my boy, Minkah Fitzpatrick, which ended up resulting, obviously, in an interception and change of possession. The offense didn't convert, and off of the great defense's great performance of this game, they had the ball for less than 3 minutes on 3 possessions, and they gained less than 16 yards. Those were their first 3 possessions of the game, and they have to have the worst short yardage situational play calling, situational execution, that I've ever seen in my life. Because personally, the way they execute on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, even 2nd and short, things like that, they just don't get the job done. I get running up the middle, but it's all they ever do, and they don't even try to bounce it to the outside every now and then. It's so weird. They don't try to run, maybe a bootleg pass or anything like that. It's just really weird. The third possession for our offense, it turned into a great punt. It was a really good punt, 64-yard punt by Presley Harvin, and it went out at about the half-yard line. And at this point, it was 0-0, and the Ravens somehow, whenever their offense looked dead in the water, they were able to take this, very bad situation and turn it into like a 99.5-yard drive for a touchdown. One of their only 2 drives this game that will result in a touchdown was 99.5 yards. That's very ironic. And the thing about that drive is Watt was called for unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and that's just something that we can't have. I mean, Watt's a great player. He played well today, and I'm not bashing him for it because it didn't affect the outcome of the game. But we just can't have that. When the play's over, don't talk smack, especially in front of a referee. Just go, get in the huddle and get ready for the next play, because we can't have that. We can't be shooting ourselves in the foot. It's something that we're really good at doing, especially in these games that we lose. Then the Steelers, after this drive, they got the ball and they went deep, but it was incomplete, and it was an uncatchable ball to Deontay Johnson. But what ended up happening is someone shoved him, I believe it was number 36. His last name was Clark. I think it's Chuck Clark is his name for the Baltimore Ravens, the free safety, strong safety. He ended up just bashing Deontay Johnson, basically killing him on a ball that at that point was clearly uncatchable. There wasn't a call, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to cry about the refs, because if the Steelers won or lost this game, it wouldn't have been because of the referees, okay? The Steelers would win or lose this game based off of their execution, and they ended up doing just enough to win. But with that being said, I do think that was a missed call, but I'm not going to sit here and bash the referees, especially because they definitely helped us during the Bears game. So I can't sit here and say, oh, the refs suck. No. I can't sit here and do that, okay? But I would just like to point that out. And like I said, I think it's a missed call, but I'm not going to talk anymore about it. And it wasn't a true game changer, and it's just one missed penalty. So I'm not too concerned about that. And the Steelers, they stopped. Okay, the Ravens got the ball, the Steelers stopped them, and they got the ball back, and the Steelers drove down the field. And Ben was at the 40, and he threw a perfect ball to Deontay Johnson, the 40-yard line of the Ravens. Perfect ball to Deontay Johnson. He ends up dropping it. And he was targeted 107 times going into this game, and he only dropped the ball once. So Deontay definitely has improved greatly his drop problem that he had in 2020, but let me tell you, it did come back to haunt us today, and that truly could have been a huge difference maker. If the Ravens won this game, that play could be one of the plays to go back to and say, wow, the Steelers should have had that. They really shot themselves in the foot. It went right through his hands. In fact, I actually touched his hands and he dropped it, and we had to settle for a field goal for Boswell, so that made it 7-3. And McLeod, it made it 7-3 going into half. It was the same exact score going into half. But McLeod, after the halftime break, he caught a ball, except at the same time he didn't catch it. It was overturned. And I do believe it was the right call, but it was very close. So I also would have completely understood if they went with the call on the field. But personally, it's my belief that, yes, it did touch the ground, and that did help him maintain possession. Kendrick Green also tackled someone who was still running when the play was about to clearly be whistled. It was clearly about to be whistled dead, except he grabbed the face mask of the Baltimore player who thought that he recovered a fumble and was going to return it to the end zone. And although I don't think he was doing any unnecessary roughness or anything like that or unsportsmanlike conduct, if that was called on him, it would have been a bunch of BS. But just a lot of Steelers fans are going to talk about the refs and how bad they were, and I'm just not the type of fan that's going to do that. I honestly believe that was the correct call because he did technically grab the face mask, and therefore it should be called. So they had to punt the football to the Ravens. It was 3rd and 11. Ravens up 7-3, and there was 3 missed tackles, and Devontae Freeman ran for the first down. And what I noticed is that they did a very good job pressuring Lamar Jackson. Lamar has never had a great game against the Steelers in his career. His only win against the Steelers in his career, if I'm not mistaken, was in 2019 against Mason Rudolph whenever Earl Thomas basically destroyed him, and then Devin Hodges came into the game and they lost in overtime. And I remember that game, Juju fumbled too. It sucked. But nevertheless, I believe that was the only time that Lamar beat this team, because in 2018, he wasn't the starter and whenever he played the Steelers, but he was in the game, technically. And in 2019, the second game, he was out, and Robert Griffin III ended up beating us, which was embarrassing, but it wouldn't have mattered anyways because the Titans won and got into the playoffs. But the Ravens, we held them to a field goal, and so they went up 10-3. Halfway through the third quarter. But like I said, what I realized is we do a very good job playing Lamar Jackson. We do a good job pressuring him. We usually get an interception or two. We force turnovers. We do a great job against Lamar, but we don't tend to spy him, which I find weird. We don't really use a QB spy, but we have all this success against him. So I find that to be pretty interesting. But the Steelers got the ball down 10-3, and they finally got inside of the Baltimore 30-yard line for the first time all game, and they threw a touchdown to a wide-open Deontay Johnson to tie up the game. Or did they tie it up? Nope, because Chris Boswell ended up shanking the extra point. It wasn't a bad snap. It wasn't blocked. He just flat out missed it. His foot position was not good, and he missed it. So it was 10-9, and this is where I started to get scared. Because obviously this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They like to give me 5 different instances of cardiac arrest. And that extra point to tie the game, let's just say the Ravens went and got a field goal. Well, now the Steelers need a touchdown because of that. If Deontay Johnson would have caught that football for the touchdown, and if Boswell would have made that extra point, then the Steelers would have been up 14-10 at that point. But they unfortunately were not, so I got very scared. Another thing is Minkah Fitzpatrick. The Ravens got the ball, and Minkah got called for PI. It resulted in about a 45-yard penalty, and the Ravens obviously converted off of it. And although I believe Minkah Fitzpatrick wasn't doing anything rough on that play, and I think it is somewhat debatable if it was a catchable ball, I still agree with the call. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I agree with the call. He wasn't being rough or anything like that, but he interfered with the receiver's ability to catch the ball. I think it was catchable enough, so I agree with them calling that. But luckily, our defense was able to hold off Lamar Jackson, Marquise Brown, and their offense to only a field goal, so it was 13-9. And like I said, the Steelers would have been up 14-13 at this point if Boswell had made the extra point and Deontay would have caught that pass. But that's not just the only thing, because I still am not a huge fan of this play calling. I'm not a huge fan of this tackling. It doesn't matter what Steelers defense this is. It doesn't matter if it's the Steelers defense that sucked when they had Brown and Bell, or if it's the Steelers defense that's usually good except for the past 2 weeks now without Brown and Bell. It's like they don't know how to tackle. They're very bad at tackling. And that needs to change. I don't know who teaches them to tackle, but they need to teach them differently because it's really bad. But nevertheless, the Steelers, they got the ball back, down 13-9. And Ben Roethlisberger, the same man who people called washed, right? And don't get me wrong, this is definitely the worst season he's had, and he's a shell of his former self, and he's a game manager. That's all he is, and he has bad games. He's always had at least one bad game a year. He's looked bad this season at some points in time. But overall, I still think he's a game manager. And the same man who there's many reports is going to retire after the end of this year and not be a Steeler anymore, which means he's going to retire. I don't see him with another team. And obviously that was widely assumed, but the reports are out. It's basically confirmed at this point. And Steelers fans are very emotional. They got to watch Ben lead them down the field and score a touchdown. And the Steelers, they were up 15-13. Oh my goodness, I can't speak. The Steelers, they were up. They were winning this football game. And somehow, miraculously, the Pittsburgh Steelers were winning this football game 18-13 with that touchdown. I mean, that's just incredible. Now, did they go for 2? Yes, they did. And they ended up making it to Pat Freiermuth. And it was 20-13. And there was less than 2 minutes left. The Ravens they've been in this situation before, okay? They were in it before. Lamar Jackson leads them down the field. They get into the end zone, and they somehow find a way to get a touchdown. And the Steelers, they left people wide open. That was a very, very just messy defensive stance for the Steelers there. And that was the only other time the Ravens would score. And you may be thinking, didn't they go to overtime? And the answer is no. Because John Harbaugh, he decided to be pretty bold, and I honestly like it. Win the game or lose it, leave it all out there. I like the decision to go for two. Lamar Jackson was in the bootleg. He threw it to Andrews. It could have been a better ball, but it was still a very catchable ball. Andrews had one hand, and he could not make the play. He dropped it. If he caught it, it would have ran into the... There's a 99.9% chance that would have been a 2-point conversion, and the Steelers would have lost 21-10. And although last week's game was basically a must-win game, it was very close to it. This game, if they lost, I just didn't see them having a chance of rebounding and bouncing back. But they were able to win the most important game of the season against a team that is the division leader for the AFC North. And they still are because the Bengals lost. But this week, the only team that positively gained in the AFC North was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 6-5-1. They have a short week. They're playing the Vikings, who are in basically must-win mode against the Detroit Lions. I mean, they're in must-win mode because of their loss to the Detroit Lions. And obviously, they're playing them Thursday night. It's a short week, so they're going to have to come to play. It doesn't matter. It does not matter that the Vikings just lost to the Lions. They beat the Packers. The Vikings beat the Chargers. The Vikings are a team that overachieves and they underachieve, similar to the Steelers. And the Vikings, although I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, it is a must-win game for them, basically. So they're going to come to play. And the Steelers team's going to have to come to play, too. I've seen the Steelers do this before. They look dead in the water. They look crap. They look like crap. They pull off an impressive win, a game that a lot of people count them out in. And then in December, they go on this run where they win 3 out of 4. Or maybe they win them all, and they make the playoffs, even though they're in the outside looking in to begin the month. And I've seen them done this many times, and I really think there's a good chance that they could do it again. But it all started today. If they do it, it started with this ring right here, right now. I wish they would have looked better last week. I wish they wouldn't have tied the Lions. I wish they had a resemblance of the defense against the Chargers. But we cannot look at that. We could not look at that. We couldn't look at what happened the past 3 weeks. We just had to look at what was in front of us, and that was the Baltimore Ravens, and we got that done. The Steelers, like I said, they have many things to work on. This offense still is not great. This defense has things that they could, do better, especially tackling. I still am not a huge fan of this play calling, and yes, the Steelers can never find a way to truly make a game comfortable. Not that I thought this game would be, but they always find a way to give you instances of cardiac arrest where they need a little bit of luck, and they also just, outplay the other team, and all of these things. They're always in a football game, and it doesn't matter if they have a 39-year-old quarterback that many consider washed to be a quarterback. They are a winning football team. They're 6-5-1. They have a chance to make the playoffs, and they're either going to barely make it or barely miss it, in my opinion. And it all started here today. So the Steelers were able to get this win. I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of what I saw from them today. I'm very proud of the way this team played. I really can't say enough about, even though they underachieve sometimes to inferior opponents, and sometimes they get flat out blown out like they did last week in Cincinnati, which is still an utter embarrassment. And it definitely, for the magnitude that was behind that game, I still can't believe they went out and did that. But with that being said, what they did today, they always seem to find a way to bounce back when people say, oh, the Steelers suck, the Steelers suck. They always seem to find a way to bounce back. And that's what they did today against the Ravens. The Ravens, the same fans that call Ben Wash, the same fans that say we suck, we don't suck. Okay, if you say the Steelers aren't amazing, cool, I'm okay with that. We do not suck. We have bad performances. Sometimes we look bad. But overall, this team is not a team that I would consider to suck. They're all NFL level, and even when you compare the Steelers to other teams, they do not suck. And I'm excited to see what they can do whenever they get an offense that is more stable in the coming years. But with that being said, if you have anything that you'd like to discuss with me in the comment section, please let me know. I am very happy about what happened tonight, and I'm very happy about the way this team played as a whole. I'm happy that we're able to go through adversity. I'm happy that I'm a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, not just because I love them, but because whenever they look dead in the water, they find a way to come back, and everyone who says they suck and they don't have a chance and they're done, they take a nice jab at them, and then they prove them wrong, and they're right back in the thick of things, and that's what they're doing right now. And they're still not in the playoff picture, but they're crawling up, and they're playing teams that are in the playoff picture in the coming weeks, and as long as they take care of what they can take care of and do what they have to do to win and just look at their schedule, they don't have to worry about other teams' schedules. They shouldn't have to. If they take care of their own business, they're going to make the playoffs. And I guess we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. But like I said, if you have anything you'd like to talk about, we can talk about it in the comment section below. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And with that being said, I'm your boy Meatloaf, and go Steelers.